Well, welcome to part 6 of the Connoisseur J69. This is the one I'm building, the East Side Pilot from Liverpool Street. Steve here again. It's Steve's Trains at Top Shed 34A. And there's the chassis. I've stripped it all down. I've got one wheel here, and I'll explain that in a minute. I've put all the parts. I've got the coupling rods, all the wheels, all the little top hat bearings, and the washers and nuts for the crank pins in there. So I've had to strip this whole chassis down because I know everything's okay now. So the next thing I need to do before in this video I'm going to complete the chassis. Going to complete the whole chassis. But the first thing I've got to do is fit these in. There's holes for 4 of them. 1, 2 and 2 the other side. But as Jim says, this was a legacy kit. And originally he didn't put pickups in the centre one. He was running as an 040. I mean, this is going back to 1990. So Jim shows you where to place these holes and then describe a line with the wheel on it, which is why that wheel's there. So I'm going to draw these out and try and fit these now. So this frame says, the instructions here say to add these washers on the outside of the frame if the frame is less than 26.67 mil. Well, I did measure it, and 25.04. So I'll have to put these in. So I've got to open up the holes, put these in, and hopefully all will be well. Oh, that's better. Well, I've got my Guinness mug and a nice cup of char. Can't beat a nice cup of Yorkshire tea, can you? So what have I done? Well, first of all, what I did was using this brooch, it's quite a large one, I opened up the holes for the plunger pickups so they just fitted the actual housing. Then what I did is fitted these are the spacers. Now how I fitted them, I've got some solder cream in a syringe, and it's like everything, you use the tools you got. I've got a resistance soldering unit, so I put them on and put them in like that. Then I held them in place with a file, and then just touched it on there, press the button, fizz bang wallop all around till it was soldered. Then I cleaned them all up, all the excess solder. Then I tried in the plungers, like so. So I'm not very good at this. Oh, come on, stop. So you can see the plunger sitting on the outside of the washer. So they're all in. Then I put the wheels on to make sure it's behind. Well, just one axle on the wheel, and it does. I've cleaned it all up. So I can now make up the plungers itself. I won't put them in. That's the last thing I'll do after it's all painted. But now I can continue on and do the rest of the body. The chassis. Well, it's Friday morning. It's 18th of July, I don't know, something like that. So what I've been doing is soldering on these white metal springs. Now, so they solder on the inside. Now, I know a lot of people know this, but some won't. you can't solder, you use a special solder. It's called low melt, 70 degrees C. This particular one, I know some of the others, you can solder to to brass and also nickel silver. This stuff you can't solder nickel silver or brass with this. So what you have to do first is trick it to making. So what you do is you can use a normal solder. You can use 145. I use 145. You can use electrical solder if you like, and you just tin where you want to go. So you tin it there. I tin it there, there, and there. Now, when you solder with white metal, you fooled it to think it's white metal. So that this is white metal. So basically, when you put this on, you can use a low melt solder. Now, a couple of things about low melt solder you need to know. You use a normal you use a normal iron like that. That casting will melt before your eyes. So you have to use a temperature controlled iron. I set mine's set to 300. I could probably go lower, right? But the tip is in and out quick. So what you do, this is the way I do it. After I've tinned it, I flux it up, loads of flux. Clean the sides up here, because with soldering, get all the oxidization off. Plenty of flux on that. I hold it in place in the right position, and then with my iron, I pick up the smallest amount of solder, and then it melts very, very quickly. It also takes a while to set, because if it's too hot, it will stay molten. So you just solder it. I think you can see. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can get a better shot for you. So what I've done is I've held this in place. Then I've got some solder and sloshed it on both sides, plenty of flux. I've tried to encapsulate it, because one of the problems with white metal solder, it's not a strong joint. With solder, the higher temperature, the stronger the joint. So electrical solder is very, very strong. 145 and 179 aren't as strong. In fact, normally if you can scrape solder off with I use a file with where I put a chisel edge on it, and you can scrape solder off. Well, that's good with 145 and 179. When you get to electrical solder, it's more problematic, so you've got to be careful. But this stuff, I can scrape that off. But you've got to be careful, because this is quite, if you bend this too much, they'll come off. So now I haven't soldered these two on, because I've got to make some ash pan parts up. So I'm going to put those on later. The other thing to note, if you get these wrong, well, let me tell you about low melt solder. If I pour boiling water over that, because it's low melt, melts at 70 degrees C. If I pour boiling water over that, that will just, or chuck it in boiling water, it will just form into beads of solder. So let's say I put this on wrong and I want to clean it up. All this will stay in position because I've used 145 or higher degree solder. But if I want to get these off, all I've got to do, heat up the kettle, pour boiling water, and they will fall off. Same with a white metal kit. If you've got a white metal kit which has been, well, if it's been soldered with white metal, you can put it in boiling water and it will fall apart. But also with epoxy, some people use epoxy. Well, epoxy is good, but about 70 or 80 degrees, it starts to lose its stick, and you can actually pull them apart and get rid of all this stuff. I know, because I've done it. Yeah, now, here's one of the legacy issues Jim talks about. There is supposed to be, here, which is on the frames, hold on. Oh. So here, below here, sticking out proud, is supposed to be an ash pan. When Jim made this kit, he read the drawings wrong. So what he's done is he shows you how to make the ash pan. Very, very simple. using a piece of this strip, which is actually, this is correct size. I mean, he shows you how wide to make it, how to file in 8 and up 1. So I've actually done one. As I said, here's one I've done earlier. That's it. And as you can see, that's the same size. Now what I did is I got 2 of these. Here's one I've done. What I did to make sure they're identical, I actually just spot soldered these together, then filed them down. So whatever you do to one, you've done to the other. This bit of nickel silver etch, this is 0.43 mil. It's going to be about 1 mil gap. So anyway, I doubled it over, so I got about 0.9. Who's counting? Here's a piece I've bent over double. What I'm going to do is flux it up, run some solder down both sides, and just give it a bit of a file up. So what I've done is I've scribed a 3 mil line back from there, both ends. I'm going to put some solder cream on there and there. Lay the thing on top, this piece. And then I'll use my RSU this time, just to solder this. So there's the grey solder paste. So I've got this on top. Press down. Now I hit the foot switch. It's cooled off. So I've got one on, it's soldered on. Now this other side, you see the little hole just there? Well, it's got a drain pipe. So what I'll do is I'll make that up first, then put this on. So there's the drain pipe in. Now what I'm going to do is put this other ash pan in. Well, there you go. I've got all the springs on, the ash pan at the bottom, the waste. I can now just give a bit of a clean up and start on the brake rigging. So what I've done, I've made up, see these pieces here, this is the brake part, it's the 2 parts of the brake hangers. There's this one and the big ones. Now these are handed, so 3 sit on the left and 3 sit on the right. So there's one made up. I've just soldered that on the top using my RSU. You don't have to use an RSU, you can just use a normal soldering iron. And then I've had to make up this little bracket. See these little brackets? Just there. You bend them up like this. Oh. That slips on the wire. The brake hanger goes in the middle, which you won't solder up yet, but this will be soldered on. It'll all get soldered up when you've got the bottom of the pull rods on. So as you can see, I've sweated on that little bracket there. It's just, I'll put it over the wire. So I put it over the wire. I've put some solder cream and I've used the RSU. It's not soldered solid because this will all be adjusted when we put the brake rigging on. So what I'll do, I won't bore you, I'll do the rest of them. And I'll get back to you. PDQ. So let's put a bit on there. Doesn't have to be, oh. This is the end of this tube. I've got another one. Now, let's put that through there like that. Got to make sure it's right as far as and then now let that set. Pull that out. Is that right? Now, so I don't burn it, because you can, if you have too much power on this, you can actually burn a hole in this stuff. Just put it on there. Hang on. Fizz bang wallop. God, I love the smell of that stuff. I don't know why. Must be mad. So that's the other side. This is the one I've put on this side. And then, let's see if it works. Oh, sorry. Look at that. There you go. That's good. So there's this pull rod, and that will go on the other brake hanger. As you can see, this white metal little casting goes on there. One goes on the other side. There's some levers with actuating levers for the brakes, and the brake, there's a air reservoir or vacuum reservoir. Although this is probably both, because this had I think these were dual brake for J69s. They had air brakes and vacuum brakes. So I've only got to put these on, put all the pull rods on and the sanders, and I'm finished. So I've got all these brake hangers on. These are two parts, the outside part and that one. I soldered those together using my RSU. These I bent up, these little brackets. I really like this idea, because normally the brake hangers just fit to some rod, but this, the rod goes right through. It's a C-shaped bracket with holes in it, and that is soldered on there, so that's quite strong. It also means that I don't lose these when I solder it up. Now what I'm going to do now, I've already done one, I'm fitting the pull rods, which go on, these pull rods on the outside of the wheels on the J69. So the pull rods go that way, and then there's a little lever, and it goes through a cross rod. I've already made one of these up. So here's the rear pull rod. That goes through the shaft to put the brakes on. And there's an overlay here. What fits on that? So I'm going to fit another one on. So here's the other side. So there's this piece and this overlay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some solder cream on here. I'll just use this stuff. I get this from Jayco in Australia. Just that stuff. And so I'm just going to put a bit of paste on that. Put this through there hold it with a cocktail stick, and using my RSU, I'm just going to solder it on. Having done all this work, I realise I've done something wrong. These springs I've attached from the inside. They should attach from the outside, so they will fit on the inside. Yes, I make mistakes. So, how do you get those off? Well, this whole thing's been soldered with 145 or electrical solder, but the springs with 70. So guess what? If I soak this chassis in boiling water, 100 degrees, these springs will come off. Watch. So there we go. There's one corner. So let's have a look. Oh, they're all off. That's because it's low melt solder. 90 degrees. There they are, look. Good shot. Well, I'm back again. So, what have I been doing? Hang on, let's get that out of the way. I put the springs on. Now, originally I put these springs on inside out. Let me explain. Jim supplies a few extra springs. So, if you look here, that spring, you can see it's rebated and you've got to solder that on. But I soldered it on the inside, thinking that was how it's supposed to go. But of course, when you do that, the spring sits proud of the, sits way too proud of the frame. And so what happens is when you've got a few issues with spacing of the wheels. So I had to take them all off, which was easy because I used, I just dunked them in boiling water and the white metal solder melts. So I've soldered these on the outside. The other thing, Jim points this out in the kit as a legacy issue, but it's not really. If you look at the pull rods, now the pull rods fit on the outside of the frames, not underneath like a lot of locos do. Notice how this is dropped. Well, some of the J69s, not all of them, some of them had dropped pull rods. It was to do with the crank of the wheel touching it, because some of them had, some of the J69s had larger crank throws. I think it was the ones built for freight locos had larger crank throws, so they had more sort of tractive effort but less top speed, whereas the passenger locos wanted more top speed, so they had smaller crank throws. So what happened is they had straight rods. Now, when Jim did this, he got the drawings off with the cranked ones. So I went, look, I could put these on and you probably wouldn't notice, and does it really matter? Yes and no. But what I've done, I've got some spare etch, and I've soldered this to the outside. All right, now you don't want to cut this first because obviously the integrity of this is important. So I've soldered some spare etch on. I'm filing it down here. Then I'm going to cut this away and tied it all up. So hopefully we won't notice. Let's see how we go. I've started the filing, but I'm going to cut it away now. I'll be past the point of no return. Well, I'm back again. And hold on. I just made this. I really need this. Good stuff. Cup of tea. Now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to, I've got to put the brake rigging on. And I've put all this gubbins on here, cross shaft. That's all soldered down. That's white metal, so white metal solder. So I've soldered it on. That's not soldered on, but you can see, oh, Stephen. But this lever is soldered on. It's just soldered onto there and just soldered on the side of the frame. Vacuum cylinder or air cylinder, whatever it is, and the brake cylinder's on. So yeah, I soldered that on. That's all done. Now, as I said before, and it's a bit of a pain in the bum, I suppose, But I wanted straight ones, not. So I got some strip fret. I don't know if you can see. This is one I've done. You might be able to see. So what I did is let's see if we can get a good picture of it. That's better. You can see where I've what I did is I soldered on one side, and you can just see where I've cut the piece there. Then I soldered it on, used my resistance soldering unit and just held it down and squeezed. And I've also had to, I mean, look, they're not perfect. I've had to blend in the ends so you can't see, because this edge is on the outside, so there's a double thickness. But so I filed that down, and it seems to be going okay. So I'm going to finish soldering this. I might call it quits for this part, and get all the brakes on. And then the only thing I've got to do is put all the gubbins, the pipe work on for the injectors and all that other stuff. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll see you in the next episode. Please give us a like and a subscribe and a comment.